Coming up next on Trackside, we've got complete coverage of the Flagler Derby, plus the Cloverleaf Classic from Colorado.
Our features this month include a spotlight on the duties of a racing secretary. Then we'll take a sprint through history with the Greyhound Hall of Fame.
There's Dr. John D. on the Healthbeat, plus Bob Silvers with a handicapping tip.
All this and more coming up next on Trackside.
From Miami to New England to Oregon to Arizona, you are tuned and locked into Trackside, the video voice of Greyhound racing.
Hello and welcome again to Trackside. I'm Marcia Berry.
And I'm Frank Fort. Last month on Trackside, we led our show with H's Sundance from Green Track. We raved about this Alabama speedster and his 18-race win streak, along with his chance of beating the U.S. mark of 31.
Well, maybe it's because we featured him on the show. I don't know, but I think we jinxed him. But on his very next race, the streaking spotlight began to fade as he finished third, ending his streak with 18 consecutive victories.
And it was also time for the Flagler Derby in Miami.
Well, Frank, should you say something? I don't want to jinx them, too.
Well, we can't jinx everybody. Somebody's got to win it. Here's how they lined up. Number 1 is Master of Disco. Though winless in the preliminary rounds, Master of Disco scored 5 in the money finishes in his 7 trials leading up to the final. Noted as a distance specialist, Master of Disco used his late speed to be a factor. He is sired by the Great Unruly. Number 2 is Terry Waite, representing the Robert Mendheim kennel in the Flagler Derby final. He started the season by taking the inaugural title over the 5/16 course. The son of public figure then relied on his early speed to score 1 win and a total of 6 finishes in the money. Terry Waite last raced at Hollywood, winning 8 races there.
The first kennel star, Grand's Gay Rig, is in the 3rd position. He won more preliminary round events than any other finalist. Never worse than 3rd in any start, this son of Jay's Pecos Bill earned the fans' respect too, as he was the betting favorite in his last 4 races. Grand's Gay Rig spent the winter at Hollywood, scoring 8 triumphs. E.T.'s Pesky found her form in the later rounds of the Flagler Derby to earn a place in the final round. The Tanis Kennel star, out of Sure Cash Reward, used her early speed to score 1 win and 3 second-place finishes in her last 4 trials. E.T.'s Pesky was the 1987 Great Race of Champions winner and a member of the All-American team.
Racing for the Ellen M. Ingber kennel, Ready to Cash was brilliant in the last 3 rounds, winning twice and finishing 2nd in her other trial. The son of Corbin is an early speed threat and certainly used that to his advantage in the later rounds. From the Florlando kennel comes Ski Martano, who tied Grand's Gay Rig with 4 victories in 7 preliminary rounds. Relying on late speed, Ski Martano was the choice in the wagering 4 times during the trials. The son of Tano raced at Hollywood during the winter, scoring 18 in the money efforts in 25 starts.
The Flagler Derby is the 6th major stake final appearance for Sonic Mist and her 3rd in 1988 alone. The DQ Williams superstar made 2 finals at Hollywood, the Floridian and Hollywoodian, while winning 9 times there during the meet. At Flagler, the daughter of Snazzy Boy was 5 for 7 in the money with 2 victories. The second of the DQ Williams Greyhounds, I'm a Good Bet, makes the Flagler Derby her 4th stake final appearance. Sired by Pass 'Em At Me, I'm a Good Bet won 3 trials and finished on the board in all her trials. A late speed threat, she came from 3rd and 5th place in the stretch to win in the semifinals. Let's go Trackside for the call.
They're off. The 2, Terry Waite, taking the early lead as they race into the first turn. The 5, Ready to Cash now second to 4. E.T.'s Pesky racing third down the front stretch. 2, 5, 4, 3, 1, 7, 8, and 6. The 2, Terry Waite with the lead as they race in the clubhouse turn. The 5, Ready to Cash racing second to 3. Grand's Gay Rig now moving up third down the back stretch. 2, 5, 3, 4, 7, 1, 8, and 6. The 2, Terry Waite with the lead. The 5, Ready to Cash second to 3. Grand's Gay Rig racing third. They head through the final turn. 2, 5, 3, 7, 1, 4, 6, and 8. The 3 now, Grand's Gay Rig moving up on the outside. The 5, Ready to Cash on the inside. They race the wire. The 3, Grand's Gay Rig.
Grand's Gay Rig wins the $50,000 Flagler Derby with a thrilling come-from-behind finish for the Fritz Kennel. Ready to Cash kept a steady pace to run second as Terry Waite was outfinished and raced 3rd.
Perfect Division, believe it or not, is approaching its 1-year anniversary of producing Greyhound racing on video cassette. And starting on October 1st, our video cassette format will be changing.
Yes, it will, Frank. Starting in October, Greyhound Trackbeat, the sport's first and only national highlights program that airs in over 6 million homes nationwide, will be replacing Trackside as our video cassette offering. The Trackbeat is 30 minutes of fast-paced Greyhound action, similar in format and look to Trackside, and it will continue to have in-depth features and highlights from only the best tracks in the country.
Plus, what's new is a question and answer segment from the NGA and a flashback segment that takes a nostalgic look at some memorable races. Also, from time to time, we'll have complete 30-minute coverage of some of the nation's top stakes events.
If you're a current Trackside subscriber, you're entitled to a special 6-month rate of $90. That's $12.50 a month plus $2.50 for postage and handling.
To purchase TrackBeat on a single-issue basis, the regular rate will be $19.95 a month and $100 for a 6-month subscription. Florida residents, please add 6% sales tax.
The special offer, only for current Trackside subscribers, is good until October 1st, 1988. So drop us a line and let us know if you'd like to continue receiving the sport's first and only national highlight show, Greyhound Trackbeat. And of course, if you have any comments or suggestions, please include them.
Coming up, more racing highlights from around the country.
But first, a spotlight on the duties of the racing secretary. We'll be right back.
Greyhound USA, featuring coast-to-coast regional coverage with some of the finest columnists in the country. Other features include commentary by Tom Jicka, cartoons by Dave Olson, handicapping hints by the Wizard of Odds, a professional gambler, plus photos of championship races and much, much more. And because you're a Trackside viewer, receive your free complimentary issue by calling or writing the sport's only monthly newspaper, Greyhound USA.
If you're looking to acquire championship pups from championship bloodlines, Bill Worthington's B&R Kennels has the perfect mix for you. B&R Kennels presently stands these blue chip studs at prices everyone can afford. If you're in the market to buy pups, B&R Kennels has well-bred pups available at all ages. If the buyer desires, B&R Kennels can also race the pups on the year-round Jacksonville circuit. For more information, contact B&R Kennels in Putnam Hall, Florida.
Being the 6th largest spectator sport in the country, it's important that Greyhound racing keep up with its established credibility. This month's spotlight focuses on the duties of the racing secretary. The racing secretary is meant for a person that everyone likes. It's one of the positions at a racetrack that has to deal with the best interest of the track management, as well as the kennel owners, trainers, and racing fans. Juan Fra is the racing secretary at the Naples-Fort Myers Kennel Club and Flagler Kennel Club. We visited him in Naples to get a first-hand look at how he handles an average night at the track. Juan's been a racing secretary for more than 6 years and says that his job makes him feel he's always right in with the action.
I just like, it's a place of action around here. Every day it's a little pressure, but there's always action and there's always something different. And I like the sport. I love the sport. Watch the dogs run, different dogs every race. It's really, and I just like what the job details, working with the cards and everything. It's actually like a bookkeeping job, and I seem to like that, keeping track of everything and all the dogs and putting the races together. My responsibility is the races. The races, make sure that the dogs are in grade, proper distance, that they're running in time. By in time, I mean dogs are supposed to be in time. They have to run within 10 days. Any dog that hasn't run the last 10 racing days have to be reschooled. So these are all state rules that I have to keep everything straight. And I mostly check the program. I'm also in charge of the paddock judge, a lot of chart rider, the whole racing department I'm in charge of overseeing. But my main job is making sure the races get done right.
And putting together Greyhound races is a lot more complicated than you think. There's a process involved that each Greyhound must go through, and it's up to Juan to ensure the fairness of it all.
At the beginning of the meet, the first thing they do is turn in the papers. They're NGA yellow papers. And then what we do, we process them, but what we mean by processing them is we make my little index cards out of them, and we put everything in the computer so everything will come out in the program. And from there, they turn in, you have pre-opening schooling to get the dogs schooled out, get them ready for the beginning of the meet. And about like 3 or 4 days before the meet, usually we do this, like after our last schooling night, we have each trainer turn in an active list. Whatever, the active list here is 35 dogs and a limit of 4 maidens. So what they do is turn in an active list, hopefully with 35 dogs, the best that they have, whatever distance. They give me that list. What I do is pull out all the cards at that time and put them all in their respective grade. And from there on, after I get every trainers and all the active lists pulled out, we make out the first the first card for the first night.
Juan is constantly concerned with the number of kennels booked at the track and how many greyhounds are needed on the active list.
We run 9 performances a week, so I like to have around 600 dogs. Having around 600 dogs active gives you a good, you want to try to keep the dogs running twice a week. If that'd be the perfect thing for the dog, to keep them in shape. Not all of them can do it, because usually grade A's and B's you can do it, but the C's and the D's, there's a lot more of those, so you can't keep them going. But the closer you can have them to drawing twice a week, the better.
Drawing a race, or making up the list of greyhounds that you see in your program for each race, is a revolving cycle. You can start with the leftover list. The leftover list is what a greyhound goes on immediately following the race they've just run. That way, the greyhound that raced Monday is ahead of the greyhound that raced Tuesday, so the Monday greyhound will naturally be chosen ahead of Tuesday's greyhound when the racing secretary makes up the next racing card.
I'm drawing my 2 grade D 5/16 races. Okay, I get my list of leftover list. I have 2 dogs from kennel 3, so they have to go in different races. Okay, I go to my dogs that ran 3 days ago. And I get all those. And now we shuffle them. This way they all have a fair chance. These are all my grade D dogs, so I don't worry about the grade. What I'm worried about are these red numbers, which are the kennel numbers. That way I don't have 2 dogs from the same kennel in one race. So I have a 3, a 4, a 1, a 14, a 10, a 2, 13, and a 6. That's 8 dogs. So that's 1 race there. That's 1 grade D race. Okay, 7, 15, 16. Okay, I already have a kennel 20 there, so he can't go. Have a kennel 10, he can't go. The state rule says, unless it's a grade T race, which is a race made up by the racing secretary, you can't have 2 dogs from the same kennel. Okay, they have to be 8 dogs from 8 different kennels. Okay, so there we got 8 dogs. That's it. So there are my 3rd and 4th races. Go in here for Monday night. There's the whole draw for Monday night.
Now that all the greyhounds that are supposed to run for one evening's performance are chosen, the post positions for each entry is determined next.
Here's the Monday night sheet that my secretary just typed up. Here we have the first race in the grade, 5/16 grade C. Here the name of the 8 dogs that I laid out. And what we do now is we shake for their post positions. Okay, whatever number comes up is the number they get. Now for the post position draw, a statement is always here as a witness, and trainers and kennel owners are always welcome to watch the draw. So what you do, you do is shake it up, like they shake it up, and then they make sure they all come out. What we do, we call them out. These are the color of the blankets. That we got a 5, 2, 1, 4, so we write them down like this. 7, 6, 3, 8. Do another one.
For all 8 races.
We'll do 2 or 3 races. Okay, our state judge usually will be calling this 7, 2, 8, 1, and I'd be repeating it back to him. 4, 3, 6, 5.
Once the post positions are assigned, the information is sent through a computer to the print shop. Before the programs are printed, however, a proof of the program is returned so Juan and the chart writer can double check.
We check all the races. I check all the dogs by grade and by distance and make sure that the right dog is on there. And I double check if there's double entries from 2 entries from one kennel, and I also double check the grade. It's a lot easier. Sometimes we'll make a mistake on our card and then we'll be able to catch it on the proof because that's all in the computer. So usually we have a pretty good record here of not having dogs out of grade or out of distance.
Sometimes after a race, the trainer elects to make a change, such as another distance or removal of his active greyhound. When this happens, the racing secretary again is the one to follow through with the request.
It'll be showing, like this one will say take off American Sarge and put on American Suede and Tough Turf. Some of them this is what they do for their active list. This one will turn one in to put on Gerald Turbulent. Distance change on Call Me Misty, that means he wants to switch the dog's distance and so on. So you get these all during the day. Now before you can do any draw, before you can do the next drawing, you have to process these cards, or else, something that the trainer requested won't be updated.
It's also up to the racing secretary to change the grade of a dog, depending on how he ran his last race. Grade meaning the level of ability of a greyhound, A the highest and E the lowest.
The grading system is actually simple if you look at it this way. When a dog wins a race, we got, here in Florida, we have grade A, B, C, D, E, and maiden. If a dog wins a race, he moves up a grade. Now in grades A, B, and C, if you don't run better than a third in 4 starts, you drop. You drop in grade. And in grade D, to get lowered from grade D to E, you have to run worse than 4th in 4 consecutive starts. And the same applies in grade E.
It seems appropriate that Juan Fra holds a position that requires equality and fairness, because so does the sport that he's so dedicated to.
I think you'd have to say it's the cleanest sport, because there's no human element. You have the 8 dogs out there racing by themselves. There's nobody running. They're going all out. And the way we do it here in the racing gets drawn, everything's by lot and by chance. And the grading system makes it pretty competitive. Like the way the grading system works, if you have 8 grade A dogs in a race, they should be pretty equal.
Still to come, Dr. John D. on the Healthbeat.
Plus, more racing highlights. We'll be right back.
There's a party going on at the Greyhound track. The dogs are hot, and that's a natural fact. The action and excitement keeps you coming back.
32 paws pound the sand at 42 miles per hour. It's fun, exciting, it's action. Take I-75 to exit 18 in Bonita Springs. Greyhound Racing, man's best bet.
So join the winners who keep coming back to the Naples Fort Myers Greyhound track.
Imagine how exciting it would be if the winner of this race was your own racing greyhound. Texas V Greyhound sells winners. Company President Smith Benners has guided first-time owners to success since 1980. Our full-service program offers superior bloodlines, quality training, and payments as low as $300 per month. Absolutely no obligation, so call for your free investment package today. The owner of our next big winner can be you.
A match race was held at Seminole Greyhound Park recently, featuring 2 of the fastest racers in all of Florida.
And believe it or not, the entries were bred in Africa, and they bear a strange kind of resemblance to a few of my relatives. You'll see what I mean. We don't know what farm they were raised on, nor do we know their racing weight, but we do know their names. I'm Hip and Hip Hurrah. We're not sure which is which, and I wasn't about to check. This holiday race was all part of the festivities on Memorial Day at Seminole. We'll get back to this classic as soon as they kind of pick up the pace, but I think we may be waiting for a while.
A little while. Let's go to Colorado in the meantime for the Cloverleaf Classic. Representing the Calvin Holland Kennel, LB's Do It To It was no worse than 4th in any of his trials. The son of Straight Through came to Cloverleaf from Pueblo, where he was 11 for 15 in the Quinella. The first of 2 greyhounds from the Thunderbird Kennel, Oshkosh Hardy set the pace in all 4 of his trials and scored 2 wins in 2 seconds. The son of Oshkosh Wary owns 7 wins and 13 starts at Cloverleaf.
Woodmore enters the Cloverleaf final with 2 wins and a second. This greyhound has won 7 times at Cloverleaf in 18 tries. Woodmore is sired by Bob's Torino. One of the most consistent performers in the Cloverleaf trials was number 4, Vaporize. The R.H. Walters entry had 3 seconds and a third in his 4 trials. Vaporize is the second greyhound sired by Straight Through in this championship.
The second of the Thunderbird Kennel entries is number 5, Oshkosh Racy. He owns the fastest winning time among the finalists, with a 30.90 clocking in the second round. Oshkosh Racy is a son of Unruly, who won 11 times in 22 starts at St. Pete. A Patrick Collins star, number 6, Pat C. Rags, used his late speed to make the final. The son of Perceive came from 4th place in the stretch in the final round to win by a head.
Valley Lobo earned a place in the Cloverleaf final by being consistent in the early rounds. The offspring of WD's Chris had a pair of in-the-money efforts at odds of 11-1 and 15-1. Valley Lobo shows 5 wins for the meet. Shumo Thunder scored wins in the first 3 rounds before settling for a 4th in the last trial. The Herbert Legstar owns 9 victories for the meet. The son of Patsy Shame won 7 of 10 races at Apache before coming to Cloverleaf. Let's go trackside for the call.
At the break, it's the 1-3-2. Around the first turn, 1-2-8. Down the backstretch, 182. Around the final turn, 812.
Although he broke dead last, he was first when it counted. Shumo Thunder goes off at 3-1 and wins the Classic with ease. LB's Do It To It set the pace and finished second, with Oshkosh Hardy racing third.
It was a betting frenzy at Dubuque Greyhound Park this month, as some lucky fans got the chance to make as many $2 wagers as they could in a 2-minute period.
$2 trifecta 613. I want a $2 trifecta 123. I want a $2 trifecta 2258. I want a $2 trifecta 315. I want a $2 trifecta 147. $2 trifecta
56. 2 trifecta 168. 2 trifecta 618. 2 trifectas 816.
This promotion proved successful not only for the track, but for the lucky fans as well.
The first stakes challenge of the year at Dubuque is the Dubuque Greyhound Park King and Queen Stakes.
Here are the post positions. Representing the Oxbow Kennel in the championship race, First Defense scored 1 win and a pair of seconds in the preliminary rounds. The son of Marty Radwick owns 8 in the money efforts and 10 starts at Dubuque. Flyin' Nice dominated the preliminary rounds by sweeping to win in all 3 of her trials. The Vasco Kennel Star has scored 6 victories and 12 starts on the meet. She is an offspring of Stake Star Sports Special.
The only Iowa bred in the final, Naren, is sired by the former All-American Profits Andy. Naren was consistent in the trial events, scoring 1 win along with a second and a third. He carries the banner of the DQ Williams Kennel into the race. The Hughes Kennel sends Brickyard out after the King and Queen Stakes Championship. The son of Bob's Goose used his late speed to score a first and second in his last 2 races. Brickyard owns 3 wins in 11 starts at Dubuque.
A son of Banker Hap, Yori Bank Bandit scored victories in 2 of 3 preliminary races. The Clifford Robbins entry scored those wins over 2 other finalists, First Defense and Brickyard. From the Herb Kerner Kennel comes Dutch Delight, sired by All-American Dutch Bahama. Dutch Delight has relied on late speed to score a first and second in the opening 2 rounds. He has won 3 times in 10 starts.
Coral Peaks used her early speed to make the championship field. The Vern Walker Kennel entry came to Dubuque from Yuma, where she won 20 of 27 races. Coral Peaks is an offspring of Bondsman. The second of the DQ Williams Greyhounds, I Love Lace, was consistent in her 3 trials, scoring 2 seconds and 1 third. Never out of the money in 8 starts at Dubuque, I Love Lace is sired by Passamaquoddy. Let's go Trackside for the call.
And they're off. At the break, the 7 on the outside with the lead. That's Coral Peaks. They're racing by the grandstand for the first time. Coral Peaks flying nice there on the inside. Into the clubhouse turn they go now. Flying Nice takes the lead on the inside, followed by 7-1. Charging down the backstretch. Flying Nice with the lead. Coral Peaks First Defense. Brickyard now moving fast, 5-8. Into the far turn they go now. Flying Nice with the lead, 7. Brickyard now moving on the outside. They spin from the far turn and down the stretch they come for the wire. Flying Nice in front.
Number 2, Flyin' Nice, the 5-2 favorite, takes the crown by half a length. Brickyard comes from off the pace to run second, with Coral Peaks racing third.
While Kansas is awaiting their first pari-mutuel track, that doesn't stop the NGA and Abilene from holding their annual spring meet. This was the fastest race of the meet. Kiowa Humphrey toured the course in 30.96. He was one of 14 first-round winners representing Art and Kay Smith of Frederick, Oklahoma. The Smiths eventually walked away with 4 main stake trophies. Another highlight of the meet was the presentation of the Rural Rube and Flashy Sir Awards to Kay's Broadway and P's Rambling, respectively. Trackside is proud to have furnished video highlights of both stars which were shown at the ceremonies. In all, it was the second largest meet ever, with nearly $300,000 changing hands in both the pup and brood auction rings.
Well, they're still going at it. Coming up, we'll have an update on that match race at Seminole.
And then we'll take a sprint through history. We'll be right back.
For information on the sport of greyhound racing, subscribe to the Greyhound Review, Box 543, Abilene, Kansas, 67410.
Now your Greyhound can reach peak performance every time. With the use of pulse magnetic field therapy, the Thuramag offers your Greyhound portable treatment. The Thuramag accelerates healing by stimulating blood cells. Its complete and easy-to-use instructions will tell you how to treat all Greyhound injuries. Thuramag, so your Greyhound will feel better. And if he feels better, he'll run better. For further information, call or write Sterling Healthcare Products in Sterling, Virginia, 1-800-262-3744.
Welcome to Anacare Supply. I'm Dr. Kenneth Aker. With 22 years of veterinary experience, I've developed an extensive understanding of the racing greyhound.
As an owner of racing greyhounds, I've learned the needs of the greyhound business. For this reason, I've developed Anacare Supply. I'd like to introduce you to Eric Huss, our Director of Marketing and Sales.
We've developed Anacare Supply to satisfy the needs of the greyhound owner, breeder, and trainer. We offer antibiotics, antidiarrheals, anti-inflammatories, bandage materials, disinfectants, diuretics, electrolyte and fluid replacement, heartworm preventatives, hormones, lab supplies, liniments, ointments and topicals, shampoos and insecticides, vaccines, wormers, and many other products and supplements. All of our orders are processed the same day. This allows you to have a complete line of veterinary products at your convenience.
For the veterinary products you needed yesterday, tomorrow, call Anacare Supply.
Well, you know, Frank, I think there might be some action on that hippo highlight that we
Yeah,
got.
I think there's some movement, and it may be registering on the Richter scale, too. They're almost to the end of the stretch. We'll get back to the race a little bit later for the final strides. Well, thank goodness they don't have a Hippo Hall of Fame. I don't think they could build a building big enough. But there is a Greyhound Hall of Fame.
And it's time now to take a sprint through history on the early years of greyhound racing.
From Abilene, Kansas, the Greyhound Hall of Fame proudly presents Sprint Through History. Since the invention of the mechanical lure, people have swarmed to the greyhound races. Although attendance at a night of races is usually around 3,000, the average is often exceeded. In 1949, at Wonderland Greyhound Park in Revere, Massachusetts, 22,607 people went to the races one night. Attendance at many other tracks has reached 10 to 20,000 people. Holidays and feature races usually draw large crowds. But many times the reason for a large crowd is a greyhound. That was the case in Portland, Oregon, at Multnomah Kennel Club on Derby Night 1933. People had come from all around to watch their favorite athlete, Fawn Warrior. 35,000 people packed into Multnomah Stadium, and 5,000 were turned away. It was the largest crowd in the history of greyhound racing. Multnomah's fabulous first season came to an end as Fawn Warrior won the Derby. In 1957, a new stadium was opened in Portland, but that early attendance record has never been equaled at Portland or any other track in the country. These and many other great moments in greyhound history are presented at the Greyhound Hall of Fame in Abilene, Kansas. The first greyhounds imported into America were brought to Kansas in the late 1800s, so it's fitting that this monumental tribute to the greyhound is located in Kansas. The Greyhound Hall of Fame is designed to preserve and to present the history of the greyhound and the industry it has created. Throughout the Hall of Fame are memoirs, artifacts, including many trophies, and pictorial displays about the greyhound. These displays are used to present the history of a unique animal from the breed's earliest recorded history to its role today as a professional athlete of competitive track racing. Another section of the Hall of Fame is devoted to the immortals of greyhound racing, the pioneers of the industry, and people who have made invaluable contributions to the industry. The Hall of Fame also has numerous displays on the modern greyhound, depicting everything from life on the farm to life at the racetrack. The Hall of Fame is open free of admission from 9 to 5 daily, from April through October. During the remainder of the year, the hours are 9 to 5, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The Greyhound Hall of Fame. It's the only national tribute to our great sport. Visit us soon.
Coming up, a handicapping tip.
Plus some racing highlights from New England. We'll be right back.
Greyhound owners, at last there is affordable insurance coverage to protect you against the death of your greyhounds. International Greyhound Insurers, IGI, has designed a variety of coverages to meet your needs. Whether your dogs are on the farm, at the track, or in transit, IGI coverage is available. Protect your pocketbook and your peace of mind. Insure your greyhounds with IGI.
Call IGI toll-free 800-327-8729 or in Florida at 800-432-1039.
This is the Greyhound, a breed apart, but not totally unlike other dogs. Just like other pups, Greyhounds are a study in perpetual motion. Like any pet, they crave affection, enjoy being touched. They have a nose for curiosity, and very little escapes their attention. But here, the similarities end. This breed of dog is born to run, loves to race. Greyhound racing is outrageously exciting, and yours to enjoy for as little as $1 at Biscayne, Florida's great Greyhound track for over 60 years.
Well, here's the moment we've all been waiting for.
Be still, my heart. Let's go back to Seminole for that thrilling finish. The race was as close as you could get for two hippos. They were belly to belly, right down to the wire, and a photo finish was declared. The judges couldn't decide who won, mainly because they couldn't figure out who was who. Perhaps a rematch is in the making. The most popular greyhound in the sport has returned to the new wonderland. Kay's Broadway once again brought smiles to the Revere racing fans in winning this race, his first start at Wonderland in nearly a year. Owned by Jack Kahn and racing for Pat Dalton, the captain of the 1987 All-American team won his next two starts and even caused the track a minus show pool of over $10,000. Just as Broadway was being considered the early favorite in the upcoming Grady Memorial Sprint, we're sorry to report that the superstar recently suffered a cracked quarter bone. Although there was no displacement, this hairline fracture will cause this son of Nicky Finn to miss the Wonderland Stakes and possibly the Race of Champions on September 3rd. A full recovery is expected, and we'll keep you posted on his progress.
There was a big upset at Seabrook this month.
And it happened in their Juvenile Stakes. Number 1, Fortune Smiles, represents the White Mountain Kennel in the championship race. A son of stakes winner Jay's Pecos Bill, Fortune Smiles used his late speed to score a pair of fourths and a third. He has finished in the money 13 of 24 races. A James Stanton entry, Rebel Rule, scored back-to-back thirds to qualify for the final. A son of Unruly, Rebel Rule began his racing career at Seabrook and has a 12-4-16 in the money record.
Number 3, Peculiar, sports one win and a pair of seconds in his trials. Relying on early speed, the son of St. Pete and Southland Star Understood has won 4 times this season. Peculiar races for the Vincent Mercurio Kennel. The second of the White Mountain Greyhounds, Miss Mariah, is the biggest late speed threat in the final. She was never worse than 4th in her trials, and the daughter of Friendly Charlie owns 11 Quinellas in 24 starts at Seabrook.
The first of 2 Valley Kennel entries, Valley Goodwill, scored 2 wins before settling for a third in the last round. Sired by Harry D., who won 13 of 15 career starts, Valley Goodwill has won 7 times in 25 trips to post. A littermate to Valley Goodwill, Valley Passamonte, was just as impressive in the trials as his brother, winning twice and placing in his only loss. On the season at Seabrook, Valley Passamonte is 15-4-27 in the Quinella.
The second Vincent Mercurio Greyhound is number 7, Invale Ways, scored 1 second and 2/3 in his qualifying races. A littermate of Peculiar, Invale Ways has won 6 times this year. Number 8, I'm a Gal, carries the North Shore Kennel into the final. The daughter of Golden Rondan was most impressive in the trials, winning her first 2 races before finishing second, all as the odds-on favorite. She has been 13-for-15 in the money. Let's go trackside for the call.
They're off in the Juvenile Stakes. Deuce on top, 6 on the mid-track, 5-8 looks to race up, 7-3-1, 4 trails the pack. Deuce the front, Rebel Rule to the turn on top, 3 on the inside, 5-7 needs room, 8's the favorite, 1 to chase off the pace to the back stretch. Deuce the front, Rebel Rule on the front by a half, 3, 1 off the pace. Fortune Smiles making up on the mid-track to the far turn. Deuce 1 coming on turn to B, 3 to chase and down the stretch shake on. 1 Deuce Galai, 1 in the middle. Fortune Smiles down on the inside. 20 to 1 shot, the Juvenile Stakes champ. Deuce in the middle, 3 left for the red.
Fortune Smile is the second Jay's Pecos Bill pup to win a stakes race this month on trackside. Rebel Rule set the pace and ran second, with Peculiar finishing third. Incidentally, the winner paid $43.80 and the 1-2-3 trifecta paid $3,858.
Coming up, Dr. John D. returns on the Healthbeat.
We'll be right back.
From Miami to New England to Oregon to Arizona, you're tuned and locked in to Greyhound Track Beat.
Revolutionizing the sport of greyhound racing with television. Because of television, Trackbeat exposes more people to greyhound racing than ever in the sport's history. Trackbeat is the first and only national and regional show of its kind on television, produced by television professionals with first-hand greyhound experience. Trackbeat attracts new viewers and old fans with spotlight features on some of the finest farms in the sport, showing the growth of greyhounds from pups to racers. Features from top kennels in the country explaining daily activities of a racing kennel, track tours of the nation's most beautiful racetracks, and of course, highlights of current major stakes race action as well as history-making races in our Greyhound Flashback. Trackbeat can spotlight your track with on-location tapings.
Welcome to Greyhound Track Beat, the sport's first and only national highlight show. I'm Marcia Berry.
And I'm Frank Ford. We're here at Hollywood Greyhound Track in South Florida, where some of the nation's top sprinters are getting ready to compete in the Hollywood World Classic.
Your track or organization can sponsor a Track Beat segment designed to help educate the millions of new viewers interested in learning accurate information about greyhound racing.
The sport of greyhound racing is growing. Every day, publications like the Greyhound Review get letters in the mail from fans asking all kinds of questions about greyhounds.
Well, this month, the Greyhound Review will share with our Track Beat viewers some of the most commonly asked questions.
Our first question is, why do greyhounds wear muzzles?
Both shows, Greyhound Track Beat and Florida Track Beat, can be seen exclusively throughout the entire state of Florida on the Sunshine Network. This new cable channel is the second largest regional sports network in the country. Total reach is 2 million households and growing. Greyhound Track Beat and Florida Greyhound Track Beat can also be seen on Home Sports Entertainment. This network is based in Houston and services Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and New Mexico. Racing fans in New England can enjoy Greyhound Track Beat on New England Sports Network. Nesson is owned in part by Delaware North and services the 6 New England states. And that's not all. Colorado viewers can see Greyhound Track Beat on United Cable. All totaled, Greyhound Track Beat and Florida Track Beat is made available to over 6 million cable households every week, not to mention the 2.5 million homes with a satellite dish. All Perfectavision produced shows are fast-paced with state-of-the-art computer graphics and digital video effects. With our Emmy Award-winning television background, teamed with the exciting sport of greyhound racing, Greyhound Track Beat and Florida Greyhound Track Beat have been recognized by television programmers as quality sports entertainment. Track Beat is a cost-effective means to head up your media plan. Just because we're new, don't turn around and run the other way. Support your sport with the power of television. Perfectavision cuts in front of the pack and wins going away.
Dr. John D. is back from a nationwide lecture tour on greyhound health. Here he is with this month's Healthbeat report.
To date, we have talked primarily about bony injuries in the racing greyhound in our Trackside episodes. In this issue, I would like to address one of the more common muscle injuries that we see in the racing dog. Muscle injuries vary from acute bruises, contusions, or tears to avulsions, ruptures with or without extensive hematoma formation, to chronic atrophy, scarring, and cording or contracture of the muscle. The diagnosis of muscle injury requires visual examination and careful palpation. Lameness due to muscle injuries is usually not evident 24 hours after the injury. If lameness persists, additional injuries should be suspected by the examiner. Today's discussion will be limited to the more severe injuries that are considered to be surgical problems. Some of the selected muscle injuries that we consider as surgical problems are injuries to the long head of the triceps muscle involving either the right or left forelimb, injuries to the extensor fasciolata muscle, most commonly seen on the left rear limb, but also occasionally seen on the right, and injuries to the gracilis muscle, which is almost exclusively an injury of the right rear limb. Injuries of any or all of these muscles may be either acute or chronic in nature. However, today we will limit our discussion to acute injuries of the gracilis muscle. Injuries of the gracilis are, as stated, almost exclusively a right rear limb injury. The injury may involve the origin or insertion of the muscle. When examining the muscle, we are looking at the medial aspect or the inside aspect of the right thigh. You can see the hand of the examiner palpating the belly of the muscle. To more appropriately examine the origin of the muscle, the hand of the examiner will have to advance further proximally, and the testicles will have to be gently pushed out of the way to successfully palpate the origin of the muscle. When palpating the muscle, We should feel for small areas of point pain, pitting edema. We should examine for areas of discoloration and any areas of swelling. When examining the muscle further distally, we try to pick up the fibers along the posterior aspect of the muscle and also the fibers of the insertion of the muscle as it runs into the medial aspect of the tibia or shin bone. Some of the fibers of the gracilis also run down into the area of the Achilles tendon. We're looking at an adult male greyhound that is lying on his right side. The left hind leg has been elevated out of view so that we can more readily appreciate the medial aspect of the right thigh. Note the penis, the testicles, the area of the patella, and the overall outline of the gracilis muscle. As you can see by the numerous blood vessels, the gracilis has a very good blood supply, and when injured, hematoma formation is a very common occurrence. All muscles have origins and insertions. The origin is always the more proximally attached portion of the muscle. The origin of the gracilis is in this area up under the scrotum, attaching to the midline symphysis of the pubis, which is the most central portion of the pelvis. The gracilis also has posterior attachments, and then it has its long anterior tendon that comes down and attaches the most cranial aspect of the tibia. In addition, we have some fibers on the posterior aspect of the gracilis that come in and blend in to the calcaneal tendon, which is synonymous with the Achilles tendon. The gracilis acts as an adductor. By that I mean the gracilis helps bring the thigh to the midline of the individual. It also acts as an extensor of the hip and also as an extensor of the hock or tarsus. Here we've got an adult male greyhound, and by lifting the tail and moving the testicles off to one side, we can appreciate the area of the origin of the gracilis muscle. Now this is a retired racer that we have here, so we don't have the great deal of muscle hypertrophy in the gracilis like we do in the individual that's currently racing. But we can palpate the origin of the insertion of the muscle in this area. We can visualize and feel the belly of the muscle here, and then appreciate the insertion of the gracilis muscle down in this area as it has fibers that run into the medial aspect of the tibia. This muscle acts to bring the thigh from a lateral or outward position to maintain it in a medial position. So it keeps the thigh close to the long axis of the body. In addition, the muscle acts as a hip extensor, and it also acts as an extensor of the hock. Here we can appreciate from the medial or inner aspect of the thigh the general outline of the gracilis muscle. Most of our tears are along the posterior border of the gracilis as the muscle attaches to its tendinous insertion as it comes down in this direction. So most of our main tears are in this area, but we'll also see tears that involve the origin of the muscle up in this area. If presented 24 to 72 hours after injury, a major avulsion of the gracilis may leave a hematoma-filled cavity 2 inches by 3 inches in diameter. A visible cavitation with subcutaneous discoloration may extend distally to the level of the stifle. The gracilis may evolve from its origin or insertion. The posterior portion is usually involved. In this patient here, we see a large swelling distally with a great deal of discoloration distally. The scrotum has been elevated out of the way in this individual so that we can see that we have in fact an avulsion or a tearing away of the origin of the gracilis of the right leg. Compare this conformation to the normal left gracilis muscle. In this particular patient here, we can see the tremendous discoloration located all the way distal, almost down to the hock, but throughout the whole region of the stifle and mid-thigh. This is because the hematoma follows the course of least resistance, which is of course distally. So most of our discoloration and swelling will be distal to the actual problem, which is this area that is proximally located right here. We see this dished out appearance, and this is where the origin of the gracilis of this right limb has avulsed and contracted distally. So we in fact have a dropped muscle. This distal discoloration can easily fool the examiner into thinking that the problem is more distally located. In actual fact, the origin or the source of the problem is far more proximally located. Contrast this gracilis muscle to the previous case example. Here, if we compare this gracilis to its opposite member, we can see that in fact the defect is located more further distally, and in fact we have a risen or elevated muscle, because as the muscle belly has contracted subsequent to its tear at the level of its insertion here, the muscle has now been drawn further proximally. This is by far the most common injury that we see involving the gracilis muscle. Some small hematoma and seroma formation is located distally. If we look at another example, we see an individual, a monorchid individual, that has an old or very chronic injury to the gracilis. We see that the insertion has retracted and is now attached much further proximally. Contrast this to the left gracilis muscle and its area of insertion. So this muscle has significantly contracted proximally, or it has risen proximally. For treatment of gracilis muscle injuries, a cold compress, ice pack, or cold spray should be applied to any muscle tear as soon as possible after injury. The hypothermia reduces edema, swelling, pain, and hematoma formation. After 24 to 72 hours, the hematoma has organized and may be aspirated with less fear of additional bleeding, or it may be surgically corrected. The treatment of choice is primary surgical repair, removal of the hematoma and any devitalized muscle belly, reattaching the distracted muscle sheaths, and eliminate dead space. A well-padded, full-length conforming bandage carried high into the groin may be applied to protect the area during the first 10 to 14 days of recovery. As healing continues, lighter dressings are applied to allow a gradual return to normal range of motion. In this patient, we can see the well-conforming, modified light support dressing that has been applied to the thigh. This is kept on during the first several weeks post-surgery. Further down the line, the patient is restricted primarily to cage rest and leash activity, allowing the muscle to go ahead and heal and prevent premature motion and subsequent disruption of the repair. Today we have tried to take a specific muscle injury of the racing greyhound that has historically been an end-of-career racing injury, and by the utilization of current surgical techniques and good post-operative care, we are now able to return many of these individuals not only to their original form, but some individuals have gone back to stake-level performance. Thank you. This is Dr. John D. for Trackside.
Well, we're certainly happy to have Dr. D back on Trackside, as well as our racing analyst.
Bob Silvers is next with the Racer's Edge. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Handicapping Supply. I'm Dr. Kenneth Aker. With 22 years of veterinary experience, I've developed an extensive understanding of the racing greyhound. As an owner of racing greyhounds, I've learned the needs of the greyhound business. For this reason, I've developed Handicapping Supply. I'd like to introduce you to Eric Huss, our Director of Marketing and Sales.
We have developed Handicapping Supply to satisfy the needs of the greyhound owner, breeder, and trainer. We offer antibiotics, antidiarrheals, anti-inflammatories, bandage materials, disinfectants, diuretics, electrolyte and fluid replacement, heartworm preventatives, hormones, lab supplies, liniments, ointments and topicals, shampoos and insecticides, vaccines, warmers, and many other products and supplements. All of our orders are processed the same day. This allows you to have a complete line of veterinary products at your convenience.
For the veterinary products you needed yesterday, tomorrow, call Anacare Supply. Class, speed, heart, and desire. All-American My Unicorn has it all. Here's My Unicorn taking command and winning the 1984 Hollywood World Classic. Out of Rocky T and Flying Energy, My Unicorn features some of the best bloodlines available in America. Pius is a perfect example of the many grade A sired by My Unicorn and is shown here running away in the Biscayne Juvenile Stakes. For more information, contact Bob Menheim in Lee, Florida.
We don't know how Bob Silvers handicapped those hippos, but he has a handicapping hint for you. Here's this month's Racer's Edge.
A few months back, we did a statistical survey at Hollywood Greyhound Track showing you how important it was for a greyhound to break on top, or at least be on top at the first turn in order to win a race, finish second, or be in a trifecta. And those statistics proved to be incredible. Do these figures hold up at other greyhound tracks? Well, we recently completed a survey at Flagler Greyhound Track, and we'll show you that shortly. Meanwhile, let's go back in time and show you the figures from Hollywood. These statistics were absolutely incredible. The greyhound that broke on top and was first at the chart call won an incredible 84 races out of 117 starts. In other words, 71%. After Greyhound was first at the first chart call and ran either first or second, it was 103 quinellas. In other words, 103 quinellas out of 117 races, or 88%. And for trifecta statistics, the Greyhound that was first at the first chart call finished in the trifecta 115 times out of 117 races, or 98%. As you can see, the speed to the first turn is quite an important factor for a Greyhound to figure in the trifecta. Do these figures hold up as well at Flagler? Well, strangely enough, they don't hold up as well. Out of 117 races at Flagler Greyhound Track, the Greyhound who showed the most speed to the first turn won 69 times out of 117 starts. The Greyhound finished second in the quinella 20 times, and finished third or in the trifecta 5 times. In other words, if the Greyhound was on top going into the first turn, they finished in the money 94 out of 117 times. In terms of statistics, the Greyhound who was on top at the first call finished in the money or won 58.97% of the time. If the Greyhound ran second, that was 17.09%, or third was 4.27%. So in other words, if the Greyhound was on top going into the first turn of the race, they finished in the money an incredible 80%. Yet this figure doesn't show to be quite as high as it was at Hollywood. Well, what would make these statistics be so different from Hollywood to Flagler Greyhound Track? And one reason could be track conditions. You know, Flagler was closed for a long period of time, and the track seems to have been working its way into shape. So the track's been a little bit slower, and that's the reason for the difference in the figures. At least my opinion it is anyway. And for the Racer's Edge, I'm Bob Silvers, Trackside.
Well, that does it for this edition of Trackside, the video voice of Greyhound Racing. I'm Frank Ford.
And I'm Marcia Berry. We'll be looking for you next time on Trackside. Bye-bye.
So long.